What's up, everybody? It's On Fire Tonight with Josh and Tressa. We are very pleased to be joined today by labor activist, organizer, and film professional Claire dot dot dot
There.
the amazing. Thanks for being here, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
All right, talk to me. You've been on the front line of both the WGA and SAG strikes. How's it going?
I
What's
so
good and what's bad?
What's good and what's bad? Well, so I have a unique career, maybe not that unique. I think actually other people um are similar with their winding trajectories. But I've crossed back and forth between what we've been referring to as nonfiction television and scripted. So the people on the line right now, meaning on the picket lines, are WGA, meaning the Writers Guild of America. That's a union specific to writing roles, and then SAG-AFTRA, obviously actors. And those are all people that are typically in fiction productions, scripted productions. But I've kind of hopped back and forth and have had a lot of, and I actually met you, Josh, on a nonfiction show. So, meaning nonfiction
Technically, it was a game show.
that is a nonfiction that,
Yeah.
yeah. So that I was actually about to explain that if you hadn't interrupted me.
He does that.
I tell you when to speak, you may speak.
Okay, I'm ready. Um, Luckily, I was ready right at the same time that you told me.
Oh, somebody's got an attitude. I like that.
Actually, my decision. Thank you. Um, so what I mean when I refer to the nonfiction space of TV and film is basically anything that doesn't fall into the stereotypical scripted category. That could be traditional documentary, that could be a reality docu-follow, as they call it. That could also be a game show or a variety show. It could be a travel show, a survival show, a makeover show, a
Cooking?
uh,
Did you already say cooking?
cooking food. Yes,
Okay.
I've recently worked on a food show. Um, there's basically anything, those big stage shows, even though those are kind of a caveat, they do tend to be more union. But that nonfiction, we want to call it nonfiction, and we're hoping more people tend to think of it and refer to it as nonfiction instead of unscripted, because there is a lot of writing that goes into those shows. Josh, you would know, as an editor on those shows, you're not the only person sculpting that story, right?
Typically I am, but that's because everything falls on me.
Call me a
Oh
liar.
Um,
my god. All the time. Josh, what would the world do without you?
Yeah, yeah.
um,
But does that
yeah,
make
no,
sense?
of course
So,
it takes about 100 people to make a show happen in a day, or 100 days of somebody's labor to make a show. So depending on how that that calculus gets broken up between people, uh, you might have a small team or a large team depending on what you're working.
yeah, and I think that goes across the board for scripted or unscripted nonfiction. You can have all different sizes of teams depending on the scope of the project and just what it's going to involve to get done. But yeah, I make that caveat because I have experience on both sides of things. So I think I know the reason that I first started getting involved and even thinking about um, you know labor organizing. I of course didn't think of it when I first got the idea, but it was because I'd worked on some shows that had people who were unionized, and since I started in nonfiction, that space that we were talking about, where it's, you know, writing is happening, story is being sculpted, but it's not the same traditional, you know, we have a script and we're going to shoot based off of those scenes entirely. That space is largely non-union, by design. Like, it was, that whole space grew out of the networks and studios and streamers intentionally setting up a workflow and a model of employment based on non-union labor exploitation. And so, like, when we're out there, when any of us in nonfiction are out there supporting the writers and actors who are on the picket lines, we're coming with it as nonfiction people. We're coming with to those picket lines with that in mind, that like, we support them and we know how hard it is, even when you have a union, just to survive and get by for some people. But you know, it can be worse. You cannot have a union at all. And so I have experiences from both sides. When I first got on a feature film as a post PA slash post coordinator, kind of moved my way up to post coordinator, that was one of the first times I really saw just how I don't want to say, yeah, I'll say how good people with a union have it, because I was new to LA. I had just turned 30 and I really needed healthcare and had to pay for it myself. And at that time, it was almost as expensive as it was now. Like, I think just recently, paying for it by myself here in Los Angeles, it was over $500, and it wasn't much less than that 7 years ago when I first started working in LA. But even though I was on a big budget feature, I did not have a union to go to. I was still considered a quote freelancer, which we can talk about that being a misnomer, intentional misclassification. But I was without any kind of labor protections or benefits, working right next to people who had great labor protections and great benefits, particularly editors working in on a big budget feature under the Motion Picture Editors Guild, or MPEG Local 700. They have great healthcare. They get crazy overtime. Not that I wasn't getting any overtime, but my overtime only hit when I was working a 6th or 7th day. Editors, people who are protected by these contracts that have, you know, been renegotiated every 3 years since, you know, I don't know, 70 years ago or whatever, they get overtime after a certain number of hours. So yeah, me as a weekly quote unquote freelancer, weekly rate, I was getting so much less than them without benefits. And yeah, it was eye-opening. And that's when I first started really looking into what a union even means, and like, well, why can't I be in a union? And so I started doing my research then. It's been a journey.
I think that whole experience is why people that aren't in a union and are against any strike or whatever do not understand how important unions are, because they don't get to experience it. And they think that the unions are taking advantage or whatever. It's so important. Like, they were destroyed in the 80s. Everybody should be in a fucking union right now. But we can't have that now. Yeah. Or at least one's really. Yeah, everybody should try and make this happen for themselves, and everything would be so much easier.
It's exceedingly hard to get in, at least, and I can talk a little bit about my experience coming from the nonfiction angle, but it's just my experience, and without saying anything too negative about the unions, every union is different. They all each have their own internal cultures, and it's built based on what their membership body decides, and the contract that they renegotiate every year. But it's pretty hard to get into an entertainment union, and I'm not really sure why, besides just the vague answer of politics and culture. And unfortunately, my view is that they're unfortunately kind of siloed, and understandably so. The way things shook out, 100 years ago for IATSE, over 100 years ago. And IATSE is, what's the acronym? International.
You guys don't know.
Fine.
The International
something
Association of Teamsters seeking intelligent life in the universe.
The Teamsters are separate. Teamsters generally oversee mostly people who drive machinery, like trucks and heavy equipment. But they are involved in our industry because there are a lot of people who are a part of what we call Transpo, the transportation department. And I was actually on a show, well, I won't get into that, but yeah, I have had the option to, no, actually I never got the option to join the Teamsters, but we were on a show that flipped for the transportation department to be Teamster. So that was pretty cool to get that experience. And there was some consideration of like, can we let the coordinator in? Because again, I was doing like more the management side of things. Oh, I don't think I said that. What I do professionally is I work as a post coordinator or post supervisor. Right now I'm a post coordinator on a feature film. I'm really excited to be back on the feature side again with all those union people.
Nice.
Shoulder to shoulder with people that have good health care.
Healthcare. Yeah. Feels good.
Maybe some healthcare will rub off on you.
Actually, I'm really excited because I won't say what company it's for, but it's a major company. And they offered me healthcare after the first 30 days.
Awesome.
Which, again, as a person who goes project to project, typically in the nonfiction space, which is incredibly under-budgeted and undervalued, I'm used to being at companies that, and I'm lucky being in post-production because post-production schedules run longer than production. A lot of times I will get offered healthcare by production companies after 90 days, which is just them complying with the law.
Right.
Yeah.
In California. I don't know if that's true across the United States, but at least here in LA, I've always been offered healthcare. As long as the company is over a certain number of people, like they have to have, I think it's like
if it's over a certain number of people, they will sometimes offer it to you immediately.
Yeah, that's never been my experience. It's always been after 90 days of work. But this was so refreshing. And the healthcare is like on par or better than what I was getting market rate, and I don't really have to pay for it. There's not really a premium every month because most of it is covered by this mega corporation. So
dang, that's amazing.
Yeah, so
it's almost like paying for your employees not to have health problems benefits you.
That's weird.
Imagine that.
Well, I mean, the other view is just you view every employee as disposable.
Yeah.
So you burn them out and you just replace them.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that that doesn't happen at this company in particular or any large corporation. We all know that like they're some of the major culprits of that, but again, the reason, even though I am working on the scripted side of things, I'm still so invested in making sure that the nonfiction side of our industry gets some kind of movement towards organizing these production companies and therefore are hopefully getting a national contract. And we can talk about how that process would work too. I I've been in, like I said, I when I first came to LA, I was on a couple of features then, but my contacts dried up because internal layoffs happened at that company, and the people that I was looking to hire me in features just weren't hiring. Um, and now that I'm back on that side of things, I know this industry, whether you have a union or not, is so it's unstable. It's an unstable being people who work from project to project. That's why it's so important to have a union to back you up because, you know, in times like a strike, they do have strike funds. Each union is better or worse depending, you know, on what their strike funds are. But yeah, um, it's definitely rough out there, no matter what side you're on. Um, yeah. Sorry, I feel like I'm rambling.
No, you're
No,
doing
not at
great. You're
all.
doing great. This is great info. This is like I'm interested in this. I want to hear this
Yeah,
stuff.
for sure.
Yeah. Do you have
Um,
any questions about anything I've rambled about thus far?
what can people who are listening to this podcast do for themselves?
What do you mean do for themselves? Like how
Like,
can
how can I, an anonymous listener to this amazing podcast, um, take action uh, to to make a union
how do
more
you unionize?
possible in my life? How can I, a day player, as it were, get involved in organized labor?
Yeah. So, okay, let me explain how organizing works pretty much anywhere. The first step that you take is starting to talk to fellow employees. Um, and I believe in being radically transparent with what you're earning, breaking down the taboo of talking about each other's earnings, because that's how people find out, oh, we're doing like essentially the same job, but not only do you have like a slightly different title, you have very different pay. Or maybe people find out that this person who has a slightly higher level job, but is not making quite what everybody would assume they were making. I think pay transparency among your peers and among people who are not your peers, higher or lower on whatever kind of hierarchy your job has. I think that that is one of the best places to start. I think,
Can I interject real quick?
yes, please.
I think that a lot of people believe their employers when they are told they're not allowed to talk about their pay between their co employees.
Right,
But
which of course you're allowed to talk about anything.
legally,
Mm-hmm.
they are not allowed to tell you to not talk about how much you make. So people talk about what you fucking make. Go ahead.
Yes, that
Oh, and
is.
also, human resources is not your friend.
No.
It's not. Human resources, if you haven't heard, human resources is a mode of self-protection implemented by the company. They can help you. I was actually just, tangentially viewing someone being helped directly when they were in a personal crisis and had to leave their job, where this, because this is a big corporation, that's one thing that HR can do for you, is kind of help guide in times of turmoil, and they can help resolve conflicts and whatnot. But you have to also remember that they are employed by the company, and one of their main objectives is also smoothing over situations so that the company doesn't look so bad. And going to HR when it comes to labor rights violations, or what you might think might be a labor concern, that's not the place you want to go. If anywhere, I would start looking up you know other resources outside of your company. And there are a lot of groups out there that are great at dispensing this information. Like, if you're on social media, I love Perfect Union, or more Perfect Union. They're all over the place and post about all kinds of labor rights and different, movements going on throughout all different industries. And also, just the NLRB is a resource to us all. Like a lot of government organizations, the National Labor Relations Board, NLRB, is not perfect. I definitely have one particular issue with them, but overall, they are a great resource for figuring out what your next steps could be. But going back to that, when you're talking to your fellow employees about anything from pay, or hours, safety, the general environment or culture at your work, or scope of what your responsibilities are. There's so many people, not just in our industry of entertainment. There's a lot of jobs that they like to condense what condense multiple jobs into one, I guess is what I'm trying to say, where you still have the same job title, you still have the same pay, but you're being asked to do more tasks because of whatever kind of consolidation they're doing. And you need to do it as a favor, or be a team player. And that's just not how jobs work.
Right.
The intention of getting a job is, I do a thing for you and you pay me for it.
Right.
When you agree to, this is what my job is upon hiring, and this is what you're going to pay me for doing X job, XYZ duties, then it should stay that way, or you should be able to negotiate for more money or better title at least. But yeah, I think there's so many people that, especially with how tough the economy has been in recent years, I think there are so many people that are just happy to have a job. And we're also, like, in America, kind of conditioned to be good little laborers and just be happy to have a job.
Yeah.
That a lot of people feel disenfranchised to not ask for more, not be a bother, especially women, unfortunately. So yeah,
Wait, did you say unfortunately?
unfortunately.
Okay.
Did I say fortunately?
No, you said unfortunately. I was making a bad joke.
Josh doesn't like women.
Ordinarily Tressa says something misogynist that I jump on her for. But since she wasn't doing it this time, I felt like I had to do it.
Apologies.
So that was a joke that didn't fly. Sorry.
We're keeping that in.
I didn't even get it. I was like, I'm such an apologetic woman that I was like, I'm sorry, did I say something wrong?
And the man is correcting me. I must have been wrong.
I must have been.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, those are the first things that you can start doing, is just talking to your fellow coworkers. And obviously, don't let your employers know, and don't let don't don't if you get a sense from anyone that they would go back to the employer and let them know that you're talking about these issues, and even if you're not saying the word union or saying the word organize, even if you're starting to talk about stuff that could lead to organizing your workplace, definitely don't include people that you don't trust.
Mhm.
And trust has to be built over time, so don't expect everyone to hop on board and be super excited about it. I remember when I first started, I was so stoked and just thought that everybody would want to. And I started walking into people's offices, and I got some answers that I did not expect. Um, so I think that it's a skill that's built over time to learn how to talk to people about delicate issues that, not everybody's going to be comfortable discussing stuff like pay, and maybe you don't even need to talk about that. Maybe you find the issue that they really care about. Maybe it's their healthcare, maybe it's their hours, maybe it's I just need time off to pick up my kids and I can't seem to do that.
I,
um yeah, go ahead.
I started, you just reminded me. I used to do hair, and I was going back into it after a break, and I was like, I'll just get a job at a chain. Who fucking cares? Just like get back into it. And it was god awful. Like, I think I was making $12 an hour or something, and it was downtown, always busy. And I was like, you guys, this is a chain. We should start a union or something. I don't know what I'm talking about. And like a week later, I got fired because I was taking longer than 12 minutes for a haircut. 12 minutes.
Wow. Do you suspect at all that you were fired because you mentioned union?
Absolutely, because there was a lot of pushback, and I was shocked. I was like, yeah, but we don't have health care. We're barely like $12 is, you went to school for this, and they
Mm-hmm.
want us to be done with haircuts in no less than 15 minutes. This is insane. We should organize. And
Yeah.
they're like, really?
Yeah, a lot of people are very resistant to unionizing because I think that I think it's, can use this word over and over again, but I think that they're disenfranchised. I don't know if you guys think of pull out a thesaurus and find a different word for that, but where people just feel like they're not going to win,
Yeah.
like, especially because it's chain, that it's, like the man is too big, and like you can't fight back, and or again just feeling like,
We
I
have a
don't know.
job. Why not just enjoy the fact that you have a job right now? Why do you
I,
have to
Yeah.
I
have
think
fight
I think
back?
it's both of those things, and I think sometimes it's over identification with the employer.
Oh, yeah.
Like their goals are your goals.
Yeah. We're a family
Yeah.
here.
Yes. And I don't want to put down anyone's, because I think that idea is very tied to people's work ethic, and I know it has been for me in the past. Of I I can be such a people pleaser, and I put off my own creative projects to do other people's stuff because it makes me, I don't know, feel better and more in control, like if I can like help and do things for other people. And I think that
Thank you
that
for being on, by the way.
oh yeah, thanks. But like for like, like, people identify their acts of service with their job, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. But I think that, it's hard to parse, it's hard to separate when an employer is leaning on that too hard, where it's like it's fine to identify yourself with the work that you do, but there is, you know kind of an imbalance, I think, especially in Western culture, at least in American culture, where we identify with it too hard, and you know are just grateful to get like any time off, and get any kind of benefits, and we just don't have it. It's not as in the American fabric, but I think that it's coming back hardcore right now with
Yeah.
a lot of, you know, I think the pandemic really did, as horrible as it is, but when that started, when the lockdown happened, I think it really was a harsh awakening of people realizing that um, they they should have more of an outside life.
Yeah.
And it's fine to identify yourself, part of yourself, with work, but when it becomes,
Your
you know,
entire identity.
your entire identity, and especially in the entertainment industry or any creative industries, but I know like some people who do hair, and you know, when it's attached to your creativity, especially, that can feel very tied to you and your being, and like um employers can exploit that, either
Absolutely.
intentionally or just by the means of capitalism, just like how that the capitalist system functions. Um, so yeah, talk talk to your fellow employees, but I do think that, you know, I would love to find any resources, and I've yet to find those resources on how to start those conversations without immediately, like you and I, Tressa, have done in the past, say the word union, say organizing, and how to start having those conversations on just a human level of like, I wish we, oh, you weren't able to, you know, be there for your daughter's recital because you were demanded to work. Like, I wish we could do something about that. What do you think we can do about that? And because I think a lot of people don't realize that all all unions are, all organizing is just people to people. Like, the most important interactions are one-to-one connections and talking about human rights,
Mm.
because labor rights are human rights. It's really about work-life balance, mental health, physical health, and all of that being tied back to that capital. And, you know, um, if people don't want to talk about money, maybe they need to maybe you need to find your in and do that slow hard work of having those specific conversations around what are the issues in your specific workplace. um, and then after that, you know, if there's already an existing labor union, if you have, you know, a majority of people, or I think like minimum, I think the minimum is 30% of people in your workplace. um, but, you know, when you have a collective of people at your workplace, then if there's an existing union that represents your skilled labor, then you go to them and ask for representation. And that existing union can help you file what's called cards of recognition, which is essentially everybody um, says like, yes, we're like, all the people that are on board for the unionization effort essentially sign cards, and like it goes to the employer, and or to the company, and they can either voluntarily recognize that their employees want a union, or what a lot of companies like to do is just flat out ignore that, pretend like it's not happening, and start to wage an anti-union campaign where they rely a lot on like, why would you want this? We treat you so well already. We're a family here. And like, look, even if you're in a company or any place of employment that does treat you fairly well, you can still form a union. You
Mm-hmm.
can be pretty fucking happy
It's
and still,
insurance.
yeah, it is. It is. It's labor insurance,
Yeah.
where because you don't know. Shit can change at your place of employment. Um and it's like never a bad thing to have.
Right.
Is literally the back, like you all having each other's back as workers. Um but yeah, so at that point, either you have an outside union that wants to take you on and represent you and helps you go to that employer and say, hey, can you recognize this body of employees as a union? Either they voluntarily recognize and then you can start negotiating, or a lot of times what happens is they'll ignore you or they'll flat out reject you, and you then have to go to the National Labor Relations Board, the NLRB, and file a petition to be recognized. And then I think I don't remember the exact amount of time, but there's a certain amount of time, I think it's like 3 months or something, where both you and the employer can have that petition time to um, basically advertise your side. It's an election. But the election is not, the election is for the union or not. And obviously the employers, if they've already rejected you once, they're going to wage a hard campaign to convince the people who are either flat out said, no, I don't want a union, or are scared and actually kind of think it'd be a good idea, but so they're on the fence. And each side is going to wage their own campaign until the deadline for the election comes up. And then whenever that election happens, either there's enough votes there from the employee body to get a union, to recognize the union, or there's not. And when there is, then negotiations can start to happen. But negotiations can take I don't know the timeline for that, honestly. And I've never been a part of a campaign like that. I've learned all of this stuff because I wish I could do that. Because I even on a feature, like I said, or even on a scripted show, in post management, because we're viewed as management, we don't traditionally have a labor union. And that's my issue with the NLRB, and just like American law, labor law in general, I think is outdated. Because I'm not a manager on a factory floor the way these laws were established back in, I think it was like 1936. I think it's Taft-Hartley was the act that kind of established that precedent of like, okay, well, managers, that there's too much conflict of interest. Like, yeah, they're not the end all be all employer, they're not the CEO of the company, but since they're management, they're kind of serving, they're more tied to the company, which, like, I can tell you right now, I am not the servant of any company.
I mean, management in general, in just about any area right now, that's just a title at this point for most places. It's just like, if you stop asking me for a raise, I'll just give you a new title that makes you feel better.
Sorry, I'm currently organizing right now.
See, it's happening right in front of us.
It is. Yeah, I'm helping this group of people be a part of the pickets that are happening, and just trying to organize picking up certain materials. Sorry, I'm being so vague. I did not.
We're going to need their names and addresses and exactly.
Yeah, so
yeah, we have to thank our latest sponsor, the Producers Guild of America.
The Producers Guild, they're not actually a union.
Right. That's a joke.
Oh, again, Josh, I'm sorry. The jokes are going right over my head today.
Claire, you're a very fun person. I know you well.
I am fun. Thank you. I hope all my labor talk is coming off as super fun.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah, being an employee that's not exploited sounds pretty fucking fun to me. And I think that should sound fun to pretty much everyone.
Totally
and
radical.
If you don't think that sounds fun, I think you should take a look in the mirror. And if you don't like what you see in the mirror, adjust that cat eye makeup. Flawless.
I'm feeling
flawless.
Pretty organized.
Flawless
damn.
victory.
So do you think I explained how to organize
Yes, very
is
well.
that understandable?
Yeah, I mean, I think that those are great, like, first steps. I think I would love if you'd be interested in sort of like coming back again. And you don't, please understand that this invitation is a hangout invitation. You don't have to feel like you are only here to represent labor in general or in particular. I think that we and our listeners will have follow-up questions, but also it's just a pleasure to spend time with you.
I'm so happy to have had the chance to just chill with you and like be on your podcast. Um, I've listened several times. I haven't.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I have to say, I haven't. What's that?
I'm
You're
sorry.
Tressa apologized.
No, it's great. It's great. I think you guys are so funny, and I enjoyed the podcast episodes that I listened to, but I haven't been able to see. I'm sorry, I'm not a YouTube person.
That's
I'll have
okay.
to
Yeah, that's
check out
fine.
some of your other streams.
Yeah. We've got stuff out there. We ordinarily our focus had been to classically our focus on the show had been TV and movies. But in solidarity with the striking unions, we're not talking about those things at all because we don't want to give promotion to that stuff. And so we're doing other things and we're talking to people and we're having guests on. And it's been a lot of fun and it continues to be.
Yeah.
Almost more
awesome.
fun. I don't know, maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe this should just be a labor rights podcast.
Maybe.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
Do you guys have any questions on any other like organizing stuff or the inner workings of nonfiction TV?
I have a million questions, but they're far too inside baseball for us right now.
I got a
Tressa,
question.
yeah,
Yes.
sock it to me.
So do you think, since everything's on hold right now, obviously, are we going to be watching a lot of nonfiction TV coming up?
That's tough to say. There is in the 2007-2008 WGA strike, there was a lot of people blame that strike for being, for reinforcing how much reality TV was being made. That's kind of like it was already happening anyway.
Yeah.
Reality TV was already on the rise. It was already very popular and making a lot of money. So simultaneously to that WGA strike in 2008, they didn't have a bunch of scripts stockpiled, and they weren't meaning the AMPTP companies weren't as ready for that strike as they were in this one. Not that they're making that many movies and TV now in the scripted world, because a lot of people are showing solidarity, but sadly there's not a lot of nonfiction TV being made right now. There was a huge boon in 2020 when the coronavirus like had everybody locked down. A lot of nonfiction shows were like, we don't have to protect our people, let's get out there and start shooting.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of, like, if you remember, like that was Tiger King time. A lot of nonfiction TV just kept marching on, like hardly slowed down. I myself was only unemployed for 3 months at the initial onset of the pandemic. So, but now, oh, 1 second. Hey, come in. Hi. Oh yeah, come on, grab it. Yeah, it's okay. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Sorry. But yeah, right now there's not a lot being made on the nonfiction side. I know people that have been unemployed since like January, some as far back as last fall.
Mhm.
So some people are going on almost a year now of not having any nonfiction employment. I'm very, very fortunate, privileged to have any job right now in either scripted or non. And no. So short answer, Tressa, is maybe.
All right.
But there's not the influx that there was in 2007, 2008. The whole industry is hurting really bad. Nonfiction included.
So
A lot of people are unemployed.
part two of that question. Are you saying that right now is the time to pitch the On Fire Tonight behind the scenes reality show? Is that what you're telling me? No, don't say yes. Don't say yes.
No, please don't.
Thank you. Thank you.
What? You don't want to see the behind the scenes reality show?
What? Can you pitch it for me right now? What would that involve exactly?
So here's what would happen on the very first episode. Tressa would call us all into the giant boardroom for a meeting, and I would stand up to her and declare that we were going to unionize. And she would say, "Not on my watch, you little flea."
We're a family here.
I would say, "I am a man."
And I'll say, "I eat men like you for breakfast." And then the end.
I would roll up my sleeves and I would say, "We're shutting this down."
I don't know. I'm actually kind of liking this.
Right?
I think there needs to be more labor themed content.
Yes.
These days.
Mm-hmm.
So now that it has that spin, now that I hear that, I'm for it.
Thank you.
Oh, we got a green light already.
I'm nobody. I can't.
This industry is easy.
So easy.
Yeah. That's what I've been saying. Josh, you got a question?
Oh, I have answers, not questions. And then Tressa, who remember is the man here, the stuffed corporate suit. She pours herself some champagne and just devours
caviar by the
fistful.
Just another day.
Angrily eating fistfuls of caviar.
Yeah.
That's like that's the next 45 minutes of the episode.
I think you maybe need to work on that.
What? Why?
I don't get it. I think you need to be on board with our vision.
Josh forgot to mention it's also a fetish show about someone eating caviar with their hands.
Is that a thing?
It's gotta be, right? I don't know.
It's okay.
Right?
Probably.
Somebody somewhere wants to see that.
Yeah.
All right. Well then, caviar fetishists, buckle the fuck up.
Because we got what you want.
Maybe you could start it on OnlyFans and see if you gain popularity there.
Yes.
And then go for the TV deal.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, it's going to blow up like no one's business, and they'll be begging to throw money at us, but we'll start small.
Corner your audience, corner the market. You got to know.
The market will decide. All right, that is all the time we have for this episode. Claire, thank you so much for joining us. Tressa Maniacs, Josh Heads, thank you for joining us. This has been an amazing episode. We'll be back next time with